Communication model as developed by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg and the Center for Nonviolent Communication, located at www.cnvc.org. I'm taking all my materials either from Dr. Rosenberg's book, one of his books, he has several, or the website. Please visit it for more. There are 2 parts and 4 components to the nonviolent communication process. We empathically listen to one another, and we honestly express what we're feeling and needing to one another. So empathic listening requires us to observe, feel, express our needs and requests based on our observations and feelings. It's a 4-step model: observations, feelings, needs, requests. It's not a formula, but it is a model that we can use. Honestly expressing is about again, observing honestly what we're seeing or hearing or feeling, talking about what that makes us, or what feeling is induced as a result of our thinking about what we're observing, and then to illustrate our needs and requests so that we can better have them addressed. I think these quotations say a lot about who this man was and how and why he developed the tools that he developed. I highly encourage you to listen to the modules on YouTube or to take the training. But I love the fact that he says that no one ever does anything wrong. We do things we would not have done had we known better. I found that to be particularly evocative and powerful. He says you cannot make anyone do anything. All you can do is make them wish you had. And then finally, he's not interested in learning that is motivated by coercion, but rather learning that allows people to be motivated by a desire to learn new things so that they can better contribute for their own well-being and the well-being of others. Could that revolutionize school? It would be great if it could. So who was this man? What was he like? I think these 3 ideas say a lot about his work. He wants us to move from a language of domination to a language of life. Part of our problem is with our language and the specific way it's set up, the grammar associated with it. He says if we can see each other's needs, then we'll see our oneness, and then we can get more joy in contributing to each other's lives rather than attempting to dominate or compete with other people. In the introduction, Deepak Chopra talks about how we are not our stories. These stories are just self-created fictions that remain intact through habit, group coercion, old conditioning, and a lack of self-awareness. The suggestion is that even the best stories collaborate in violence. It's not what you do that counts, it's the quality of your attention. And the only way to resolve all violence is to give up your story, as no one can be enlightened who still has a personal stake in the world, Deepak Chopra says. Ruth Babermeyer, throughout his books, provides great music. This poem, this song that she writes, says a lot about the process too. Words are windows or they're walls. I feel so sentenced by your words, I feel so judged and sent away. Before I go, I've got to know, is that what you mean to say? Before I rise to my defense, before I speak in hurt or fear, before I build that wall of words, tell me, did I really hear? Words are windows or they're walls. They sentence us or set us free. When I speak and when I hear, I let the love light shine through me. These are things I need to say, things that mean so much to me. If my words don't make me clear, will you help me to be free? If I seem to put you down, if you felt I didn't care, try to listen through my words to the feelings that we share. Your experience of sadness is the same sadness we all feel. Your experience of fear is the same fear we all fear. So we're never alone in the, endurance of these emotions. They are part of our life. We're feeling beings that think, after all. Nonviolent communication is about a mutual giving. He wants compassion, a flow between oneself and others that's based on a mutual giving from the heart. We have a great quotation from a Holocaust survivor that says that she's not easily frightened. And it's not this because she's brave, it's because she knows that she's dealing with human beings. And she's going to try hard to understand them. She was yelled at by a young Gestapo officer. And rather than feeling indignation, which is what most of us would feel, she feels deep compassion. Wondering if he had an unhappy childhood or his girlfriend let him down. He was harassed and driven, sullen and weak, and she wanted to treat him like the pitiful young man he is, so that he doesn't become dangerous and harm humankind in some capacity, as of course she was experiencing being in that Gestapo camp. Hurting people hurt people is the suggestion here. And even the idea that you would do what the other would do had you had the same experience of that other. And that goes for everybody. And so if this Holocaust survivor can have, a mutual giving from the heart with a Gestapo officer, then you and I can do it with each other. Or at least we can aspire to. This is about nonviolence. Nonviolence is the way Gandhi used it, where a state of compassion exists in the heart and violence is retreated. Gandhi based his work on Henry David Thoreau's work. And then, of course, Dr. King, inspired by Gandhi, who was inspired by Thoreau. And Thoreau, I'm sure, inspired by others too, is the chain of causation there. Nonviolent communication guides us in reframing how we express ourselves and hear others. Instead of habitual automatic reactions, our words become conscious responses that are based firmly on an awareness of what we are perceiving, feeling, and wanting. We come to hear our own deeper needs and those of others. And yes, we can meet the needs of every human being on this planet, Dr. Rosenberg says, if we can just, identify what we're concretely seeking. Can we identify and clearly articulate what we are concretely wanting in any situation? We're more likely to get it if we can, and we're more likely not to if we can't. We want to hold our attention on a place where we're more likely to get what we're seeking. NVC doesn't require that the people we're communicating with be literate or even motivated to relate to us compassionately. If this was taught, change in society could be systemic. One young man was in prison and learned this and told Dr. Rosenberg if he had known about this, he wouldn't have had to kill his best friend, and he wouldn't have ended up in prison. And so this just might be the most important thing in the world. Now, there are 4 components, as we've already identified, to express and receive with each other through these components: observations, feelings, needs, and requests. The nonviolent communication process is the concrete actions we observe that affect our well-being. When I notice you're not picking up your socks, okay? And then how we feel in relation to what we observe. When I notice you're not picking up your socks, I feel like you could help more in keeping our home clean. Then the needs, values, and desires that create our feelings are expressed. When I notice you're not picking up your socks, I feel like you could better help us keep a clean home because I'm needing a ordered space to have inner order. Would you be willing to pick up your socks? Okay, so, the concrete actions I observed, the socks on the floor from a teen or a child, if you have these in your life, or a sibling, how we feel in relation to it. Okay, I'm feeling like you're not respecting our home as much as maybe you could. I'm feeling like you could pick those up to keep our space clean, and that would help me feel more relaxed. And then the needs, values, and desires that create that feeling. When I notice you leaving your socks on the floor, I feel like you could do a better job of helping our home be an ordered space because I'm needing order so that I'll have inner calmness. Would you be willing to pick up those socks? So the concrete actions I observe, how I feel about that, and what I need from the person, and then the concrete action I want them to do is expressed in that example. Okay? So again, let's think of another here just off the top of my head. When I notice you not submitting your homework, I feel concerned because I'm needing you to grow as a learner so that you can, have your dreams come true. Would you be willing to complete the assignment and turn it in late? This is a great summary by Joy Ming of the 4-part nonviolent communication process. We want to focus specifically from our own perspective on what we see, hear, remember, or imagine. We want to be sure we distinguish between what we feel, what we think, and who we are in this process. Regardless of what others say, only hear observations, feelings, needs, and requests. Okay? Don't say anything that isn't play. Listen with your whole being. You can express appreciation to others when they've contributed to our well-being, but we don't want that appreciation to be manipulative, designed to reward them so that you can get more behavior from the same. That is not going to help, so he says. Even though, we can use the steps, it's not a formula because it has to be adaptable to various situations and personal styles and cultural styles. For example, in front of the classroom, I could say, I need you to share my attention so that you can learn and grow, as opposed to, be quiet, listen, Aren't you listening? Or something like that. Can we, in our professional positions, not judge, right? Can we aim to do that? It's possible if we can use this NVC formula. I want to move from being an evaluator to being an observer as an educator who provides feedback instead of critical critiques all the time. So this is beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. Because as we started this whole thing, we're saying that we human beings never do anything wrong. We do things we wouldn't have done had we known better, according to Dr. Rosenberg. Rumi agrees. I'll meet you on the field beyond wrongdoing and right doing, the great Persian poet. Nietzsche, the German philosopher, beyond good and evil. He hoped the philosophers of the future could achieve that. Perhaps Rosenberg has in this way. And I tell you, I was very suspicious of nonviolent communication. It sounds weak and passive, but it's not. In fact, it's the strongest form of communication I've come across. There are certain ways that we communicate that alienate us from our natural state of compassion. And in a world of judgments, our concern centers on who is what, and this is part of the problem. The idea is that we all have the same needs and values. Analyses of others are actually expressions of our own needs and values. I hate when you leave your socks on your floor. Pick them up. That chastising claim is actually an expression of my need for outer order and the fact that I value cleanliness to keep my home calm and peaceful. Value judgments, they reflect our belief of how life can best be served. Moralistic judgments, though, fail to support those value judgments. So, life could best be served by eliminating violence. Violence is bad. People who kill others are evil. No, we want to aim instead on something that's better. I am fearful of the use of violence to resolve conflicts. I value the resolution of human conflicts through other means. So here I'm observing that, violence makes me afraid. And I value other ways of solving conflicts. And let's try that instead. Revisiting the feelings that we all have and the needs that we all have is extremely important. You don't really know what you're feeling half the time. You're going to actually say you feel good or you feel bad, but that's not specific, and good and bad are not feelings. These are the feelings we have. Okay, you might be feeling inspired, but that's not good. You might be feeling frustrated, but that's not bad. We have to get clear on what we're actually feeling for this process to work. And we have to get clear on what the other person is feeling for this process to work. That's why we have to reflect back to them in some cases what they're feeling to be sure that we're right, because we may have to guess, because the person may not be specific enough to say that they're reluctant or that they're touched. So it's okay to ask, I'm hearing that you're frustrated when you put your head down. I'm seeing that you're frustrated when you put your head down. Is there something I could do to alleviate that frustration? Can I give you extra support? The basic needs are the same for all of us. And this fun and laughter one, this is we are absolutely not getting this in life. You're not supposed to play at school. You're not supposed to play at work. I tell you what, I work and play, I work at a school, and I desperately want this to be what we do every day. Because I tell you what, if you're laughing, you're listening. And if you're having fun, you're probably developing your skills in the classroom. But of course, rarely do I achieve this. Classifying and judging people, as our modern world is currently obsessed with doing, I'm this, you're that, you did this to me in the past, it promotes violence. And so the very thing that these people are trying to reduce is exasperating the problem, okay? Since we were children, we've been taught that bad guys deserve to be punished. And we've watched tons of unfortunate violence on characters and took pleasure in this. No wonder we think as we do. At the root of all our violence is a kind of thinking that attributes the cause of conflict to wrongness in one's adversaries, and of a corresponding inability to think of oneself and others in terms of vulnerability, that is, what might be feeling, fearing, yearning for, missing, etc. In that example I used previously with the guy who murdered his best friend, that violence is a reflection of the wrongness in his thinking. He thought the other person was wrong and bad, and so he took it out on him instead of trying to reach some sort of vulnerable understanding with each other. The world's also obsessed with comparisons right now, and comparing people is a form of judgment. Our language obscures that we have a personal responsibility in many cases. I had to do X. No, you never have to do anything. You choose to do it. The Nazi Adolf Eichmann used that excuse. We were only following orders. I had to. Well, he sent thousands of people to his death. Now, he didn't do this alone. The stimulus was there would have been consequences if he didn't do that, for sure. But to say that he had to is a lie. And anytime you say, I have to, you're lying to yourself and others. You choose to. Okay? We can never make people do anything. All we can do is, make them wish that they had, right? Your children don't do something, so you yell at them. We can't make them do anything, clean their room, but we can yell at them and make them wish they had, but that's just going to drive us further apart, and it's violent. I'm understanding that much of the language I'm using is violent, and it's shocking to me. Obviously I don't want to contribute to that. When we think about who deserves what, it blocks compassionate communication. Okay, and there's a lot of that going on in society right now. Life-alienated communication. It's got deep roots with us. But if we can combine an observation with evaluation, it's just going to deepen this life-alienating problem, and people are going to hear criticism when we observe and evaluate. The language of, I should do this, or I have to do this, this trains us to think that, in terms of moralistic judgments that imply wrongness and badness. The more we're being trained to look outside ourselves to external authorities about what constitutes right and wrong, good and bad, the more enslaved we become by authority. Don't shit all over yourself, okay? When you catch yourself, I should do this, I should do that, stop. Don't believe that voice. It doesn't have to be all or nothing here. Frame curiosity instead of judgments, okay? We try to observe without evaluating, and then we express what we're feeling. The ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence, according to Krishnamurti. And at first that statement seems like nonsense, but if you look deeper into that, you will find that to be absolutely true. It's extremely difficult to observe without evaluate, but it is the highest form of intelligence. I'm with Krishnamurti. The world we try to explain and talk about, it's symbolized with language. And this is a world of process, change, differences, dimensions, functions, relations, growth, interactions, developing, learning, coping, and complexity. But our words suggest that, something is concrete and it's done. This is the case, instead of understanding that things are constantly changing. And as soon as you say something is the case, it's changing already to be different than you said it was, right? No person steps into the same river twice, Heraclitus said, because you are not the same person, nor is it the same river. So we want to be mature. And being mature requires us to differentiate our feelings into specific nuances so that we can, express our experiences in a passionate way or a delicate way, depending on the situation, so that we can experience life as a symphony of sorts. But we have to get in touch to what we're specifically feeling in the moment to understand this, and what we're specifically needing in the moment. Along the way, we've got to distinguish feelings from thoughts. We're trained to be other-directed rather than to be in contact with ourselves. We learn to be up in our head wondering, what is it that others think is right for me to say and do? Instead, we want to express our vulnerability so that we can help resolve conflicts. To do that, we have to distinguish feelings from thoughts, distinguish between what you feel and what you think you are. Instead of, I am feeling irritated, it's simply, I am irritated. Okay? Thoughts are ideas, perceptions, opinions. They occur by thinking in the mind. They're ideas about the world. We experience thoughts as we mature and gain experience. They can be complex, but feelings, they're emotions or reactions to physical or mental sensations. Our reactions to emotions or sensations are the feelings. The feelings come first. Remember, we're feeling beings that think. And again, feelings tend to be simple. It's not I'm feeling irritated, it's I am irritated. Now, we have to be able to express our needs and connect with that. I feel, a blank because I need blank. Okay? Distinguish between giving from the heart and being motivated by guilt. Oh, aren't you sorry for what you did to your sister? Say you're sorry. I'm sorry. You didn't say it like you meant it. Really say it like you mean it. I'm so sorry. That is motivating by guilt, right? Trying to shame somebody into feeling bad. That's not going to help anybody, and it's violent. And if you're doing this to your children, you're being violent. And I'm doing it myself, and I'm upset about it. But I'm making this in part to try to fix myself, right? I feel upset because I need to know that I'm parenting in a way that's a healthy way and that I'm teaching students in a healthy way. And so I need to learn nonviolent communication and use it to help mitigate the chance of me causing harm, which is my first requirement. Just like a physician, as a teacher, I should do no harm. That should be the first thing I do. when we judge our students or judge our children, that's actually our alienated expressions of our own unmet needs. Like, this class is the worst I've ever had. You never do your work. You're loud and annoying. My need is for you to grow as a student, and if you're not doing your work, you can't do that. My need is for you to share my attention because I have important things to share with you, and if you can't be quiet, I can't share those things, right? If we express our needs, we have a better chance of getting them met, okay? But we have to understand our needs first. So we got to connect our feeling with our need. I feel blank because I need blank, okay? The basic mechanism of motivating by guilt is where you attribute the responsibility of your feelings to others. You made me feel why. Nope, nobody ever makes you feel anything. Now, the other people might be a stimulus for your feeling, but it's your thoughts about the stimulus that create the feeling, okay? So you are responsible for that, and you need to own that. I'm needing more respect in our dialogue. Instead of telling us how you think we are acting, would you tell us what it is we are doing that you find disturbing? Okay, here, we're in a conflict with a group of people, and the person's calling us, child killers, as awful people called Vietnam veterans when they returned home, okay? Instead, they could say, the Vietnam vet could respond, I am needing more respect in this dialogue, and instead of telling us how you think we acted, could you tell us what it is that we did that you find disturbing? And then we can have a conversation about what actually happened in Vietnam. These are our needs. We mentioned them before, we looked at them before, but I think we really have to understand each of them. And so we have to write them down, we have to think about them, we have to explore them, we have to be able to identify them when we're needing and thinking them. Okay, so what is it you're feeling? That's going to lead to what you're needing. What is it you are needing, and what would you like to request from others in relation to those needs? There's one example where this person says that I've just become aware that for 36 years I was angry with your dad for not meeting my needs, and I realized I never once told him what I needed. Okay? We got to connect with what's alive in you and communicate what's alive in you to the other person so that your hearts can open and that both of you can see what's alive in you. Could they be feeling alienated because they've not had a lot of human contact lately as a result of COVID? Okay? Connect with that person. This is a shocking story where this older lady recalls something from her childhood where she's always feared asking for what she needed because she thought it would lead to disapproval and judgment. One of her sisters had an operation and she got a purse as a result. And so this woman, when she was a girl, pretended to have a pain. And so they went to a bunch of doctors and they couldn't find a diagnosis, and they opted for exploratory surgery. And this girl was faking it the whole time just because she wanted to get a purse just like her sister got for her operation. So she gets the purse, she's elated, but she's in agony from the surgery. The nurses come in, show the purse, and the mother said, show your purse to the nurse, who answers, oh, for me, why thank you, and takes the purse. Mom is at a loss and never figured out how to say, I didn't mean to give it to you. Please return it to me. So this woman, as a little girl, faked being sick to get a purse like her sister got for an operation, gets the purse, the nurse thinks it's for her, the nurse takes it, and she doesn't know how to express her need that that's her purse. Think of how painful that was. First of all, to have the surgery and be pained for that when you didn't have a problem, and now not to get the purse that you wanted in the first place. And no wonder she has issues with, asking for what she needs. And supposedly women are socialized to, kind of ignore their needs to meet the needs of their family. And I think fathers are socialized to, not have feelings so that you can be, stoic and lead the family, lowercase s. But if we don't value our needs, others aren't going to either, right? So we have to become emotionally responsible for ourselves. This goes through 3 stages. First, emotional slavery, where you think that you're responsible for the feelings of others. Okay, mom is upset, that's my fault. You want to grow out of that eventually to the obnoxious stage, often in the teenage years, when you refuse to admit you care. I don't care. Doesn't matter, right? And then 3, when you finally graduate, to emotional liberation, where you accept the responsibility for your own feelings. The stimulus might stimulate your thinking to cause a feeling, but it's your thinking about the stimulus that results in the feeling. Okay? You are not responsible for the feelings of others, but you need to accept responsibility for your own feelings, especially if your own feelings are causing harm to other people, because you have no right to express your feelings if it causes harm to other people, which again, we're seeing a lot of that in society now. Groups think it's okay to express their frustration in ways that cause further harm to our country. It's not okay. Okay? You can never meet your needs at the expense of others. If you can clearly communicate what you need in a way that is equally concerned with fulfilling your needs as well as the needs of others, you're on the right track. Okay? But this isn't about you getting your needs because you want them. This is about meeting the needs of everybody involved in the relationship, in the situation, in the family, in the classroom. And to do this, we have to connect. And the more directly we can connect our feelings specific to our needs, the easier it is for others to respond compassionately. We want to use positive, concrete language when we're making a request. And we want to know that if we're trying to be good in life, you're going to be depressed because that's the reward for being good, right? Let's look at an example. I'd like you to tell me what I might do to make it easier for you to feel free to express yourself around me. Okay? This is a clear way to connect with the person. It allows them to, see what you're feeling and needing from them, and it allows them a chance to empathically respond. So whenever you say something to someone, you're requesting something in return. You can reflect back messages if they're emotionally charged. I see that you're angry with my government for not meeting your needs for safety. Is that right? This is a response that Marshall had for a Palestinian person who was upset because some tear gas grenades that the Israelis fired into his camp had "Made in the USA" on the side, and he doesn't have sewers in his community. He wonders why we're sending weapons instead of helping build sewers, and he's cursing out Rosenberg. And Rosenberg could easily have responded, I'm not the one doing it, it's not my fault. But instead he says, I see that you're angry with my government for not meeting for your need for safety. Is that right? This conversation goes from a screaming match on the Palestinian side to him inviting Marshall to dinner in less than an hour. So paraphrase back what the person is thinking, paraphrase back what the person is feeling, needing, and wanting, only when it contributes to more compassion and understanding. It can save us time, right? This helps save time so that we can get right to the need of the person who's expressing that about the tear gas grenade. Behind intimidating messages, they're just people trying to help get us to meet their needs. Hurting people hurt people. And so when hurting people, use intimidating messages, let's recognize that they have a need. Let's not recognize that they're a jerk, okay? Because that's a judgment. We don't need to make those. And when we do make those, we let it go and ignore it and move on. What will they think of me? You got to put that aside to experience bliss, Joseph Campbell said. When we have critical comments about others, when we blame others, we got to see that as a gift. People are being critical of us. They're blaming us. They're actually giving us an opportunity to give to them. These are people who are in pain. And the more we empathize with the other party, the safer they and we feel. Rather than put your butt in the face of an angry person. But I didn't shoot those tear gas grenades. Empathize. To bring a conversation back to life, you can interrupt with empathy. We don't want to should on oneself or others. We're human beings here. And when human beings hear a demand, we tend to resist it because it threatens our need for autonomy, our strong need for choice. So when we say someone is bad, what we really mean is they are not meeting our needs. Okay? In every choice, we have to be conscious of the need that we are seeking to meet. To be self-compassionate, we have to recognize that we make choices motivated purely by our desire to contribute to life, to share what's alive in us, rather than to do things out of fear, guilt, shame, duty, or obligation. I get to wake up in the morning early to go to my job. And you're lucky you wake up today. Some people haven't. Some people are too ill to go to work. I choose to give the SAT because I want to keep my job and support my family. I disdain giving standardized tests. And I used to say, I don't want to do this, but I have to. That's not true. I choose to give standardized tests because I want to keep my position as an educator to try to do more good than harm, even though I think these tests are harming the students. Now, I could take it further and protest or actively refuse to give the test, but I'm choosing not to because right now I have enough stressors, and I just can't add another. After we gain clarity regarding the need being served by our actions, we can experience those actions as play, Rosenberg says, even when they involve hard work, challenge, or frustration. Often parents and teachers motivate by guilt. This is because they're mixing up the stimulus and the cause. You made me feel blank, so you should feel bad about yourself. No one made you feel anything. The most dangerous of all behaviors consists of doing things because we are supposed to. If you can connect in empathy with conflicting groups, problems usually resolve themselves. If you can resolve everything to each party's satisfaction, that is a better option than compromise is. Listening, it occurs inside our heads, right? So nobody knows whether it's happening or not, but you can determine this by reflecting back what the person said. We can ask them to take an action we ourselves can see and hear. Now, if they can tell us what has just been said, we know the person heard and was indeed listening to us. We need to be well practiced at hearing the need in any message. I'm confused. I'd like to see the connection between what I said and your response, but I don't. Would you be willing to explain how your words relate to what I said? This is an idea. This is a statement that you could make instead of, that answer's wrong, or no, that's not right. Okay, I'm confused. I'd like to see the connection between what I said and your response, but I don't. Would you be willing to explain how your words relate to what I said? That's the nonviolent communication method of, you're wrong, okay? So, reflect back what I heard. I'm hearing that you're upset with my government for selling weapons to, your rivals and for control of this nation. Is that correct? Yes, I'm upset because blah, blah, blah. We can aim for gratitude along the way because it's like an elixir. If you can become a connoisseur of gratitude, you won't be a victim of resentment, depression, and despair. It can gradually dissolve the hard shell of ego, that need to possess and control, and to transform you into a generous being where you're grateful, and it's almost a spiritual alchemy of sorts that makes us magnanimous, according to Sam Keen. So we express appreciation to celebrate, not to manipulate. Saying thank you and NVC would be, when you completed your assignment, I felt happy at your hard work. I need you to continue that effort so we can both learn and grow. When you picked up your room, I felt happy at your hard work and taking care of your space. I need you to continue to keep that space clean so that you can have outer order for inner calm. How do you receive appreciation? Well, there's a Sufi way, which is really a beautiful way to show appreciation. But if you're not a Sufi, you can do it without feelings of superiority or false humility. I'm guilty of the latter. When I receive appreciation, I got to get better at this. I need to express appreciation only when we want to celebrate, when we want to take an action that's contributed to our well-being, the particular need of ours that has been fulfilled, and the feelings of the pleasure engendered as a result. If we can express appreciation and use it for celebration, specifically talking about how the action has contributed to us, then we have a mutual sharing. And when we're mutually sharing, we're dancing. And why walk when you can dance, as Marshall's grandmother advised. So this is just a brief introduction to nonviolent communication. I mainly did this honestly for myself to try to get better at doing this. There's lots of resources and books that you can explore too if you're interested.